Welcome back to another episode of Devil Dash. We're back after a 1-week hiatus. Josh, good to be back. And we know we've missed a little bit, kind of a lot going on with college football. But the good news is, since we've been back, a lot's been down. College football and the Pac-12 are back.
We back.
What does that mean for you? How excited are you? Tell me your feelings.
I mean, it's been a roller coaster of emotions, but hey, we finally came to a decision. Someone put the right foot forward, said, hey, we're going to play in a month. Everybody else is doing it. So are we. I'm ready, man. I'm ready. ASU got a big game on the 7th.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about this. ASU schedule. I have an article coming out for Sports Pac-12 tomorrow, kind of what I think is going to happen game by game. Josh doesn't agree with me what I think ASU is going to do, so I'm going to let you start. What do you think ASU's 6-game record is going to be?
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I think first and foremost, I think USC is going to be a tough game for us. Just first week of the season. I don't think we lose. I think that's our first loss of the season. I mean, what do you think?
So I'll go through. I'll say each game. So we start off at USC at the College. Then we have Cal at home. We go at Colorado, Utah at home, UCLA at home, and at University of Arizona. So with the USC thing, we know that USC is probably the target on their back in the Pac-12 South. Admittedly, I think they're a little more talented than ASU. I don't think it's a huge difference, but I do think they have the edge. That being said, this schedule coming out, I think, is awesome for the Sun Devils. USC being first, I think, is a huge advantage for these guys over here in Tempe because think about what's been going on during COVID. There's been a few practices allowed. I forgot what the exact number is, but there was a certain amount that each team is allowed. Remember what the huge issue was with the Pac-12 playing was California and the Oregon weren't allowed to practice, and how were they ever going to have games if they couldn't practice? So that being said, ASU getting USC first, I think they could take advantage of some sloppiness. We don't see a lot of personal fouls from ASU. Herm Edwards always has his team playing by the books, tight football. I think with these extra practices, they could have a little bit of advantage on USC. We saw the Cardinals here in Arizona do it to the 49ers, week 1. And I think that this is a great thing for the Devils. If they can catch a win against USC in week 1, they control the Pac-12 South. And I think that ASU comes away with the win here. I think Jaden Daniels, he missed this USC game last year, and I think this is one he really wants to play in. It's going to be the first Pac-12 game of the year, the 9 a.m. kickoff, and I think he's going to be ready to take that next step. He's been tweeting he wants to play. We've seen all the Instagram and Twitter posts. So here, I think the Sun Devils get the win and start 1-0. And we always have seen every year past, ASU has upset a better team than them. I wouldn't say very good teams because, Michigan State hasn't been always a great team. We've beaten Washington early on. They always seem to find the way to win early. So I say 1-0. What are your thoughts on my prediction for that? This is probably the biggest game of the year for them.
So, yeah, my score prediction for that game is 38-34 USC. I mean, look, you can say that home field advantage doesn't really have anything to do with this season because there's going to be, very little or no fans at all. But I feel like it does. I mean, they're playing in Southern California. They're not going to be playing in this heat. They're still going to be ready for us. They're going to be hyped up for this game as much as we are, whether we've been practicing longer than them or not. And, I mean, they know how big of a game this is, too, to start the season on the right foot. So it'll be tough. But
like I said, I think the talent gap is a little bit is not as big as everyone thinks with ASU and USC. And I think with these extra practices, anything you can do to kind of get that gap smaller and smaller and, maybe catch them by surprise with a play or two or, even one long play for, 60 yards could decide that game. So you have 0-1, I got 1-0. Next game, California, the one crossover game from the Pac-12 North. We have 5 games against the South and then 1 game against the North. Our North game is Cal. What do you think here, Josh?
I think this is a tough 1-2 punch for ASU, but ultimately we can defeat Cal. Whether or not we win or lose our first game, we will beat Cal.
I agree. I have ASU winning this game as well, but this is a very interesting game because Cal was 4-0 last year when the Sun Devils rolled into that stadium. They were ranked number 15 in the country. They were red hot. That defense was stopping everyone. And Chase Garbers, the Cal starting quarterback, gets hurt and hurts his shoulder. It's tough because what can you judge a team with their backup quarterback? And I got to say that Cal backup quarterback was one of the worst backup quarterbacks I've ever seen. I don't know how he was a Division I athlete, and this guy's family is watching. But that being said, it's hard to see how ASU did against them last year and can kind of compare it to this year without their starting quarterback. So I still think the Sun Devils get a win, but this Cal team has a lot to prove. I think they kind of just buried the hatchet on last season, and I think they're really ready for this year. I think this is going to be a really good game, and I think ASU does get the win, but I think this is going to be one you want to mark on your calendar.
Yeah, for sure.
So I had 2-0, you got 1-1. Next game, I'm sorry, I did not skip a game. Next game, we have at Colorado. What do you think here? Colorado's lost a lot, but ASU's always struggled with them. What do you think?
Yeah, this is usually one of those games that ASU walks in there with their chin up, high and mighty, and then they drop 15 points against some terrible defense of Colorado. But I think this year they don't have the Sun Devil killer,
Laviska
Chenault. So I think we beat them easily.
While we're talking here, if any of you guys agree, disagree, disagree with anything we're saying, let us know in chat. Let us know how you think the Sun Devils are going to do this season in chat, and let us know what game you're looking forward to most as we go through this order. But yeah, with Colorado, they seem to beat ASU a lot. That being said, they lost their starting quarterback, Steven Montez, who I told you it feels like he was there for 10 years, it felt like. But they lost him. They lost Laviska Chenault, and those are pretty much the two names that I knew on Colorado. I know one of our Dash Sports hosts, Jason Marks, was saying that they're getting not a lot of love, and he likes that. But everything that's gone on with their head coach leaving for Michigan State this year and everything that's gone on there, I just think there's a lot of turmoil, a shortened season. It's hard to incorporate a new coach with everything that's gone on in this offseason. I think the Sun Devils win here pretty handily. I think this is a good game to have on the road this year. A very good game to have on the road because I think it's a little bit easier. So I think the Sun Devils go 3-0 and then probably head into the next game. At this point, if you're 3-0 or 2-1 at this point, the biggest test yet of the season. Home against Utah. Josh, what do you think here?
It's tough. I mean, if anyone in the chat is watched the ASU play Utah last year, just give me one word. I want you to describe that game one word, because for me, devastation. I watched that game. ASU put up about defense. It was just like a highlight reel of Utah linemen just swarming our guy. I mean, it was pathetic, but I think this year, I think we still lose.
It's their defense. Utah is getting a little more love than ASU this year, from Vegas and from the ESPN FPI. But to me, it's a big question. The defense is always going to be there. Good defense can win championships. That's the saying. But when you lose your starting quarterback and your starting running back in Zach Moss, and Zach Moss wasn't just another starting running back loss. He's one of the best running backs in Pac-12 history if you look at numbers.
He's already made a big –
and he's making a big splash in Buffalo as well. So, I mean, when you lose a player of that caliber, it's really, really tough to rebound. So I think ASU gets the win here. And let it be said, I think we beat USC. You have them losing. Whether or not you beat USC, this is the next game you need to target because this is a Pac-12 South opponent. These three teams are kind of grouped above the rest of teams that could win the Pac-12 South. So that being said, 2 wins over Utah and USC, you really control your own destiny going forward. And that's a big thing for ASU. So I have them at 4-0. I think they're in the top 20, maybe top 15 at this point if they're 4-0. And not to get the hopes up, but maybe sniffing the college football playoff at this point. But we'll get to there. Next game, after a big game, home game against Utah, we have UCLA. I have them at 4-0. You have them at 3. You're 2-2 at this point. Josh, what do they go here?
Well, I see ASU winning out the rest of their schedule. The next game being UCLA. Chip Kelly, good coach. that'll be a lot tougher game than most people realize. I mean, coming off of Utah, I mean, those are going to be two very physical teams back to back. But I mean, this is the part of the season where ASU should be in its stride. After we beat Utah, we should be in top form to round out the season, to be ready for Oregon or whoever we may face at the top. This is one of the games where I think we need to put up a bunch of points, make a statement, capitalize, and hey, put the haters down, man. This is what we got to do.
Okay, Sun Devil fans, do not come for my head when I say this. I have them at 4-0, and I want to be as realistic as possible when I'm going through ASU's schedule. Obviously, I'm a homer for ASU in some ways, but I really like the talent on this team and what the possibilities are. That being said, with the big wins and why I have them beating USC, because they get those big wins, every season seems to come with a letdown. And if you're a true Sun Devil fan, you know that. Every year there's those losses. Last year it was UCLA. And, the final score was 42-32. 42-32. But if you watch that game, you know it was not that close. UCLA had a 32-point lead at one point in that game, and they just seemed to do literally whatever they wanted on our defense. And I think ASU loses here. I think the letdown comes here with another athletic quarterback in Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We've seen him talk about our other Dash Sports hosts, but it's going to be a tough schedule. I know they lost Joshua Kelly, the big running back, and he's the one that I believe he had like 170 yards last year, 160 yards against the Sun Devils last year on 15 to 18 carries. Some absurd, but I don't think he's the same as Zach Moss, first off, and B, they didn't lose their starting quarterback. Another year of Chip Kelly's offense, and I don't know. ASU, if you look at the trap games, I don't think Colorado's won, and I don't think they're going to be thinking of Utah or Cal as trap games. And let's be honest, I don't think U of A at the end of the schedule is going to be very good. So I think this is the game where the Sun Devils slip up and get their loss. I have them at 4-1. Last game of the season, the Wildcats. What do you think here, Josh?
Easy dub, baby.
So yeah, the win. This is probably the easiest game on the schedule. We've talked about how U of A's 3 of their 4 leading tacklers from last year have transferred. Their starting left guard, I believe, left guard or left tackle transferred. Kevin Sumlin got diagnosed with COVID today. Hopefully he gets better soon. But that's going to cut into practice time, preparation for the season. So with this U Arizona squad, there are so many question marks, and there's no possibility the Sun Devils lose here. So I have them at 5-1. You have them at 4-2 or 3-3?
4-2.
4-2. So those are our predictions for the season. If you disagree with us, let us know in chat. If you think they're gonna lose a game that we said they were gonna win, or win a game that we said they were gonna lose, let us know. But we will move on. And by the way, kickoff is 4 weeks from this weekend, November 7th.
9 a.m.
So 9 a.m. First Pac-12 game will be a big one. ASU at USC in the Coliseum for one of the first 9 a.m. games. So with that 9 a.m. game kickoff, kind of new thing for the Pac-12, Josh, we've seen a lot of 9 a.m. games. We're used to SEC schools, maybe saw Clemson playing at 9 a.m. But the Pac-12 is going to get this 9 a.m. game. What do you think? What's in your mind when you think 9 a.m. football, college football? What do you think of?
SEC. That's what I think of.
I know we talked about this before the show, but every morning, I wake up around 8:45, 9 o'clock. I come out here and I'll start my morning. On Saturdays, I like to be a little lazier. I'll flip through the channel, see what good college football games are on. And I've seen a lot of Florida games. I've seen a lot of, there's games like West Virginia. But, teams that I'm not a fan of, but I like to see because I'm a fan of college football. When these Pac-12 games are on at midnight Eastern and they're still being played, no one cares to see ASU play Oregon State. But when these games are at 9 a.m., it's going to be ASU, USC, or an Oregon, Washington. Those are games that are going to gain the Pac-12 a lot more in the long run. But with these 9 a.m., do you think Pac-12 football fits the brand of East Coast style football? And when I say that, I mean people are accustomed to seeing the Auburns and the Floridas, and those teams play at 9 a.m. and then they're used to a big Alabama LSU game on CBS in the afternoon. But if they want to watch some West Coast style football, they'll wait till, Pac-12 after dark or whatever. But do you think that this Big 12 kickoff, not only for ASU, but for the rest of the Pac-12, not necessarily popularity or money, but what do you think just play style wise this means for the Pac-12 and people watching? What do you think they're going to be looking for and expecting from the Pac-12?
Well, I mean, they should be expecting a lot different, form of football. I mean, this isn't Auburn versus Texas or whatever, these big super powerhouse schools, whatever you want to call them. This is the Pac-12. Not every one of our linemen is 350 pounds and is destined to be in the NFL since junior high, okay? I mean, we don't get those guys, but we still have good players and we have phenomenal coaching staff, everyone involved. I mean, I think this shortened season is the perfect time to shed a little light or shed more light on the Pac-12 and, the schools involved in their football. And, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we've got a bunch of Pac-12 games scheduled for, ESPN, Fox, ABC.
Well,
so you're going to be seeing a lot of them. I think this is good for the Pac-12 ultimately.
We'll get into that into the next section, but for the Pac-12 in general, just being the 9 a.m. kickoff, I think it's going to be interesting because we've seen the Pac-12 cannibalize itself so many times before in the past. ASU beat Oregon last year. Our Sun Devil fans are very familiar, and that's a form of cannibalism, I think, for the Pac-12 that we were okay with as Sun Devil fans. But that being said, let's say Oregon finishes with 2 losses. ASU and USC have 2 losses. Utah is a 1-loss team, and a 1-loss Utah, 1-loss any Pac-12 team's not going to get in. The nation might be able to see what kind of leadership is needed to move forward. I mean, we've written in our articles, we've talked about Larry Scott left and right of the decisions being made, the meetings that are scheduled a week later or, just on a Thursday instead of a Monday in a week, stuff like that. So I'm excited because not only will people get to see the USC, ASUs, the Oregon, Washingtons, maybe an Apple Cup with Washington State. They'll get to see the turmoil that happens in the Pac-12, these missed extra points, kind of the dumpster fire that really makes the Pac-12 so exciting.
Wait, please don't forget the number one thing.
What's that?
The referees.
The referees, the worst referees in all of college football. I'm really excited because I think the recognition is going to be positive and negative. And when I say negative, I mean to a point where we can fix it. We saw replacement referees in the NFL, for example, and those were such a dumpster fire for I don't even know how long it lasted. 2, 3, 4 weeks max. So it's going to be helpful for the Pac-12, and I mean, I think it's so exciting to just think about the concept of ASU USC on 9 a.m. So it's not going to be a game where you just watch 4 hours of your team and you might watch it on and off. This is going to be a game where people wake up on Saturday and say, hey, I'm thirsting for some college football, and Pac-12's on this weekend. Ooh, USC probably will be ranked by then. ASU won't be ranked, but we know we could be in the 30s where a win could propel us in there. So the first game, that could be a better game than, LSU playing Missouri in the SEC, where LSU is going to win by 25 points, and that could be a better game than a lot of those games on at 9 a.m. And I am really curious to see where the viewership goes from a 9 a.m. game to the compared to still an Oregon State versus Washington State at probably still the 7 p.m. kickoff, because obviously not every game is going to be 9 a.m. But it is good to get the recognition that game was the first one at 9 a.m. But we talked about what it could mean for the style of football, but we're going to transition into the games, specifically where they're being broadcasted. We talked about Larry Scott. There are no games on the Pac-12 network, and this is why this year. And for any of you that's news, this is why this is a big deal. Because for those games on Pac-12 network of, let's say, ASU versus Oregon State, half the times those games start at 7 p.m. on the Pac-12 after dark. People forget that 7 p.m. on the West Coast is 10 p.m. in New York. People in New York are not going to tune in at, for the second half of an ASU Oregon State game at midnight. Breaking news, they don't care. And it's on Pac-12, let alone. So unless you want to buy the channel, they're not going to watch the game. But with ESPN, no games are being on Pac-12 Network, which is a big deal because now every single game is going to be on ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, Fox, or FS1. And
Turn it up, baby.
It's sad to say this as Pac-12 fans, but it really is a big deal because we're talking about getting that recognition. We want those big name recruits, some of the top 10 recruits in the country, to commit to the ASUs, to the Washingtons, sorry USC, sorry Oregon, you guys get enough as it is, so spread the wealth. But we want some of those names, and we really, us here, I know you're on the same page here, that we really believe this is a big positive for the Pac-12. That not only if you don't have Dish or if you have Cox, some people don't even offer Pac-12 Network anymore. So this is big not only for people in the Pac-12 region but nationwide. What do you think? Could this be who? Sorry, let me rephrase this question. What team in the Pac-12 do you think stands to benefit most from getting a lot of nationwide views that probably they didn't have in the past?
Probably. I mean, if you think about it, when you think of Pac-12 schools, what are the first two schools that you think of? Like generally Pac-12, like greatness.
I mean, if we're thinking Oregon and USC, if we're thinking of relative recency,
or like Oregon, USC, or UCLA, you don't think Arizona State or
So here's my counter argument to that is USC is always going to have those fans no matter what. If they're on Fox, if they're on Channel 7, that people are going to watch the game if it's USC or Oregon. Where I think teams like ASU, teams like Washington, stuff like that, where they are going to be good this year. A Cal maybe. Cal is a little bit of an underdog team. I think they could be scary, but teams that have the storylines like a Chad Johnson Jr., big name, nationwide fans know Ocho Cinco, a Jaden Daniels who could be a very dark horse Heisman candidate, very, very dark horse Heisman candidate. Teams like Washington who their quarterback just went to the NFL draft, or teams like Utah who probably aren't going to have that star player on offense, so it's going to be a team ball type game. So I think there's teams like that if ASU can get off to this 4-0 start, like I think they can, I think they're a team that stands a lot to gain. Where USC, if they go 4-0, fantastic. The bandwagoners are going to be out in LA all over. But if they go 1-3, I don't care if they're on TV or not. People are going to be calling for Clay Helton's head because those are passionate fans. So if ASU could get this national ranking, I think they stand a lot to gain. What do you think of that?
No, for sure. I mean, there's no one hotter in the Pac-12 right now. I mean, hotter than like Herm Edwards. Like, he's the man. Like, no other coach has the personality that he does. No other coach can even touch him. So this is exactly what ASU needs. I mean, this is exactly what Jaden needs. I mean, I think if he can capitalize this season, albeit every game's being nationally televised, people are gonna remember his name. I mean, look, they didn't make our very first game big noon kickoff against USC, the very first one, for no reason. I mean, they're sitting there staring at that Heisman, betting lines. I mean, Slovis and Jaden are right next to each other. They know this is going to be a really good game, and I mean, hey, it depends. That game can have huge outcome for how the Pac-12 does, and for the broadcast and ASU throughout the rest of their season as well.
And I know I already mentioned some of the small advantages ASU has, but I think something that's big that hasn't, people in the back of their head like, oh yeah, I knew that, but kind of forget about it, is that Jaden Daniels didn't play in that USC game. And I think that's big because Yellen, who played, is now gone. He played well, but we got down to that 28-7 hole early where I think you don't get in that hole if Jaden Daniels is in at quarterback. I think it's a different game. I don't know. I think USC not having seen this quarterback, us having played Slovis before, I just really think the Sun Devils have a lot of advantages that USC doesn't over them to start the season that they really, really need to take advantage of and start the season off 1-0, because if they fall behind 1-0 to USC, where is USC's next loss going to come from? because if they have the head-to-head against you, they need to lose 2. So look through the rest of the Pac-12 South. Maybe Utah beats them. I know Utah struggles with USC even when they were nationally ranked and USC wasn't. USC still upset them. Look at Utah. Look at maybe I think their crossover game is Washington State this year. Is that a team that can beat them? Probably not. Colorado, Arizona, UCLA. Are those teams? Are you really going to find 2 losses for USC if you lose week 1? And I think the answer is no. So I think if for Arizona State, if you want to make a Pac-12 championship game, you cannot look at me, Herm Edwards, Jaden Daniels. Do not go out and lay a clunker in game 1. If you go out, you have a great game and it's a quarterback duel and, you put on a show for the national crowd, great. But do not go out and lay a clunker and just basically give up a hope on the season, because I know, losses can happen, but if you lose that game 1, I think the season's over.
It's not going to be a clunker, okay? Look, that USC they have no film on us, for one. Jaden was hurt, so they can't go watch him play against them last time. We have a new offensive coordinator this year. And, dude, seriously? We have like you said earlier, the 5-week preparation time. We have that on. And I feel like it's going to be just an insane game. It's not going to be a clunker.
It's so tough to say, though. We've seen the NFL. We've seen injuries taking place all over the field. You never know how that's going to affect games. We've seen so many things happen, and that now until November 7th and that game kicks off, there will be something that happens, whether a player falls sick to COVID. Hopefully nothing on either side like that happens, but injuries happen in practice. Players transfer because they find out they're not going to be playing 99% of the snaps, so they transfer. I think there's a lot to watch here. So that first game, that one, and then the Utah game, I want to keep the eyes on. UCLA, I think, is the trap game, and I think Cal is going to be a really not bad team or great team, but I think they're going to be sneaky good with a good quarterback and good defense. But with the last 3 minutes, Josh, weekly segment, we didn't want to spend much time on this because the Steelers didn't get to play last week. But that being said, our USC versus ASU wide receiver debate. I just want to say at this point it's getting a little ridiculous. Brandon Ayuk with another great touchdown run, probably one of the best plays of the weekend across all the NFL with a hurdle at the end. We've seen memes being made out of it already. And then another one tonight on Monday Night Football with, I believe, Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. N'Keal Harry caught another touchdown. So I just want to come back to the same quote. You said, if you come for the king, you better not miss. I'm going to give you a break this week because Juju Smith did not play because of COVID circumstances. But I don't know, man. I just want to say, you guys over there at Trojan Dash, are there any more receivers coming? Because I don't think Pittman's doing it this year. So you got any more of those receivers over there? So, guys, let us know in the chat. What do you think ASU is going to do this year? My article for Sports Pac-12 goes into a little more depth each game, why I think one of the matchups on each side, and why I said ASU was going to lose to UCLA. So if you want it, that will be up sometime tomorrow for Sports Pac-12. So if you think I'm stupid for that, go let me know in the comments. I want to hear it, and I can tell you why I think you're wrong. Give us a follow on anything social media related, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. That's at Dash Sports TV. Follow us on social media. I'm Wills Rice on Instagram, Wills Rice 17 on Twitter. I don't know what your handles are if you want to get a little plug here.
At Josh Eyraud on Twitter. Follow me.
Make sure to check out our website. We have been slacking a little bit on clips. We'll make sure to get all of our clips from all of our episodes up on dashsports.tv. And we want to hear you guys. So, if we said anything interesting tonight that you disagree with, but you didn't get a chance to comment it, go comment on our Twitter page. Let us know. Throw us an @. We're usually around, so we respond to a lot of people. So check us out. Make sure to like our columns, go read our columns, and go support all other Dash Sports journalists. We're very excited for the future and just for the future of the content that's going to be coming out with football coming out. So we missed a week last week. We're happy to be back this week, but we are out of time, so we will have to see you guys next week. We thank you, everyone, for joining, and we're looking forward to some Sun Devil football very soon. So we'll see you next week. Thank you.